There's a version of death nobody talks about. Not the kind where your heart stops beating. The kind where you're still breathing, still moving through your days, still showing up to work and answering text messages and smiling when you're supposed to. But inside, you've already gone quiet. You're not suicidal. You're not even depressed in the clinical sense. You're just done. Done performing. Done pretending. Done carrying the weight of a life that stopped feeling like yours somewhere along the way. And here's what terrifies you most. You can't remember the exact moment it happened. When did the colors fade? When did the music stop landing? When did you become a ghost in your own life? If you just felt something shift in your chest, if those words landed like they were written specifically for you, don't look away. Because what I'm about to tell you will explain everything you've been feeling but couldn't name. And here's something you need to understand right now. The people who feel this way aren't lost. They're the ones deep enough to question life instead of sleepwalking through it. By the end of this video, you're going to understand why your exhaustion isn't weakness. It's the most intelligent thing your soul has ever done. Now let me tell you about Jenna. She's 22, college senior, sociology major, with a minor in something she stopped caring about sophomore year. On Instagram, her life looks like a highlight reel, coffee shops, study sessions with friends, filtered sunset photos with captions about gratitude. But here's what the algorithm doesn't show. She lies in bed at night, phone 6 inches from her face, scrolling through TikTok not because anything is funny or interesting, but because stopping means being alone with herself. And being alone with herself feels like drowning. She goes to parties and stands in the corner with a drink she's not drinking, nodding along to conversations she's not actually hearing. People think she's shy. She's not shy, she's just not there. Last week, her best friend asked her, "What do you even want to do after graduation?" And Jenna opened her mouth to answer and realized she had no idea. Not because she couldn't choose, because nothing felt real enough to want. She's been telling people she's just tired for 2 years now. But it's not that kind of tired. It's the kind where sleep doesn't help, where rest doesn't restore, where you wake up and the first thought isn't about the day ahead, it's about how many hours until you can go back to sleep. If you're nodding right now, if Marcus's or Jenna's story sounds uncomfortably familiar, I need you to understand something. You're not alone, and more importantly, you're not broken. If you've been telling people you're just tired when you really mean something else entirely, keep watching, because this next part will explain why you've been numb for years. What you're experiencing has a name. Psychologists call it existential exhaustion. But that clinical term doesn't capture what it actually feels like, does it? It feels like you're carrying a backpack full of rocks. And every time someone asks, "How are you?" you add another one. It feels like you're watching your life through a screen, like you're the audience member instead of the actor. Like someone else is living your life while you just observe from somewhere deep inside your own skull. The philosopher Søren Kierkegaard wrote about this in The Sickness Unto Death. He called it despair of possibility, the exhaustion that comes from living a life that could be anything, but somehow feels like nothing. You're not sad, you're not angry, you're just empty, hollow, going through motions that once meant something, but now feel like a script you didn't write and don't want to perform anymore. So let me show you what's actually happening inside your brain when you feel this way. Because once you understand the mechanism, everything changes. And here's where the science gets uncomfortable. There's a neural network called the default mode network. Scientists discovered it in 2001, and it revolutionized how we understand human consciousness. This network lights up when you're not focused on the outside world, when you're daydreaming, reflecting, thinking about yourself. Under normal circumstances, it's beautiful. It's how you process experiences, form your identity, understand your place in the world. But when you've been running on empty for months or years, when you've been in survival mode so long it became your only mode, this network transforms into something else entirely. It becomes a courtroom. You're the defendant. You're also the prosecutor, the judge, the jury. And the evidence is always stacked against you. Why do I feel this way? What's wrong with me? Why can't I just be happy? Everyone else seems fine. Maybe I'm the problem. You read the same paragraph of a book 3 times because your brain is having this argument with itself instead of processing the words. You sit in meetings nodding along while your internal prosecutor lists all the ways you're failing. You open your phone mid-conversation not because you care about what's on it, but because you're desperately trying to escape the courtroom in your own head. Neuroscientist Dr. Matthew Lieberman at UCLA found that this kind of rumination, this endless self-analysis, actually creates the same neural signature as physical pain. Your brain processes emotional exhaustion the same way it processes a broken bone. But here's where it gets worse. There's another system in your brain called the reward circuit. It's responsible for releasing dopamine, the chemical that makes you feel motivated, excited, alive. When you experience something meaningful, this circuit lights up. When you laugh with a friend, when you create something, when you connect with beauty, dopamine floods your system and tells you, this matters, this is worth doing. Except when you're exhausted, the system goes quiet. Not because it's broken, because it's been overstimulated or undernourished for so long that it's stopped responding. Think of it like a song you've heard 10,000 times. The notes are the same, the melody hasn't changed, but the feeling is gone. Scientists call this anhedonia, the inability to feel pleasure from things that once brought you joy. And most people think it's permanent. But it's not. It's a signal. Your brain's screaming, we can't keep doing this. Something has to change. And if you're hearing these words right now and something in you is waking up, that's the proof you're not gone. You're still in there. That spark of recognition, that's your soul responding. The numbness isn't death, it's hibernation. Your emotional system powering down to protect itself from complete collapse. Dr. Bessel Kolk wrote about this in The Body Keeps the Score. He explained that when we experience prolonged stress, not acute trauma, just chronic, unrelenting pressure, our nervous system makes a choice. It shuts down the parts it deems non-essential. Curiosity, spontaneity, the ability to be surprised by beauty, all the things that make life feel alive. What's left is the bare minimum. Wake up, function, survive, repeat. And on the outside, you look fine. You're still going to work, still paying your bills, still showing up. You microwave the same meal you've eaten for 3 weeks straight because deciding on food feels like too much. You wear the same 3 outfits in rotation because choosing clothes requires energy you don't have. You say, sounds good, to plans you have zero interest in because saying no would require an explanation you're too tired to give. But on the inside, you're experiencing what psychologists call depersonalization, a disconnection from your own reality. Like you're watching your life happen to someone else. Now here's what most people don't understand about this kind of exhaustion. It didn't start yesterday. It didn't start last month. This has been building for years. Every time you said, I'm fine, when you weren't. Every time you smiled instead of screamed. Every time you swallowed your truth to keep the peace. Every time you chose silence over honesty because honesty felt too expensive, too risky, too much. All of it adds up. Psychologists call this cumulative emotional debt. You've been borrowing energy from your future self for so long that now the bill has come due. And the interest? The interest is unbearable. Let me tell you about my own experience with this. I was 28, working a job that looked good on paper, respectable title, decent paycheck. People congratulated me when I got it. But every Sunday night, I'd feel this weight settle onto my chest. Not anxiety, exactly. Something heavier, something older. I'd lie in bed, scrolling through my phone, not because I was interested in anything I was seeing, but because I was trying to outrun a feeling I couldn't name. I'd watch videos I didn't care about, read articles I wouldn't remember 5 minutes later, open the fridge 3 times in an hour, not because I was hungry, but because standing there with the door open gave me something to do with my hands while my mind raced nowhere. And the feeling was this: if this is what the rest of my life looks like, I don't want it. Not in a dramatic way, not as a crisis, just as a quiet, honest observation. Like looking at a meal you're supposed to eat and realizing you're not hungry. You're never hungry. You haven't been hungry in years. I thought something was wrong with me. Everyone else seemed to have it figured out. Everyone else seemed fine with the routine, with the performance, with the acceptable level of numbness that adult life apparently requires. But I wasn't fine. And the more I pretended to be, the more exhausted I became. Here's what I learned that nobody tells you. The exhaustion isn't random. It's intelligent. Your soul doesn't get tired of life. It gets tired of lifelessness. It gets tired of routines that don't align with who you're becoming. It gets tired of performing a version of yourself that everyone else needs, but that you don't recognize anymore. Viktor Frankl, who survived Auschwitz and wrote Man's Search for Meaning, said something profound. When a person can't find a deep sense of meaning, they distract themselves with pleasure. But what happens when even the distractions stop working? When Netflix doesn't numb you anymore? When you finish an entire series and can't remember a single plot point because you were staring through the screen instead of at it? When scrolling feels empty? When even the things that used to bring you temporary relief now just feel like more noise? That's when you have no choice but to turn inward, to confront yourself, to ask the question your soul has been whispering for years. What's the point? And this is the moment everything changes. Now, before you think this is all just personal weakness, before you blame yourself for not being strong enough or grateful enough or positive enough, I need you to understand something about the world we're living in. We exist in a culture that has weaponized productivity. You've been taught since childhood that your value is measured by your output, by your achievements, by your usefulness, by how much you can produce and how little you need to rest. Rest became guilt. Boundaries became selfishness. Saying no became failure. And somewhere along the way, you internalize a belief that's quietly killing you. I am only valuable when I'm performing. Psychologists call this conditional worth, the idea that love, belonging, and acceptance must be earned through accomplishment rather than given freely simply because you exist. Researcher Brené Brown talks about this in The Gifts of Imperfection. She found that people who struggle most with exhaustion and burnout are often the ones with the deepest capacity for empathy, the ones who feel everything, the ones who absorb everyone else's emotional weather like a sponge. You're not numb because you don't care. You're numb because you care too much. You're the person who notices when someone's smile doesn't reach their eyes, who feels the tension in the room before anyone else acknowledges it, who texts someone back immediately because you know what it feels like to be left waiting, who remembers tiny details about people's lives, their dog's name, the project they were nervous about, the anniversary of something difficult because your brain can't help but hold space for everyone's humanity. And nobody taught you how to set boundaries around that kind of sensitivity. Nobody told you it's okay to say, I can't carry this for you right now. I'm barely carrying myself. So you kept going, kept giving, kept showing up, until one day you realized there was nothing left. Not because you're weak, because you gave everything away and forgot to save anything for yourself. This is compassion fatigue, when your capacity for empathy exceeds your capacity for self-care. And here's the paradox that nobody talks about. Your heart isn't heavy because it's empty. It's heavy because it's full of everyone else's problems, everyone else's emotions, everyone else's needs, expectations you can't possibly meet, responsibilities you never asked for, emotions that aren't even yours. You became the safe space for others, but forgot to be a safe space for yourself. You're the one people vent to, and you listen, absorbing their pain like it's your job. You're the one who shows up when everyone else flakes, even when you're running on empty. You're the one who gives advice, emotional labor, reassurance, validation, while your own needs sit in a corner, quiet and ignored, because you've learned they don't matter as much as everyone else's. If that just described you, if you just felt seen for the first time in months, leave a comment, just one word, because you need to know you're not the only one. But here's what I need you to hear. What you're experiencing right now, this tiredness, this emptiness, this sense that something fundamental is missing, this isn't weakness. This is awakening. Most people go their entire lives never questioning the script they've been handed. They wake up, play their role, follow the rules, and never once ask, is this actually what I want? Or is this what I've been conditioned to want? But you can't ignore those questions anymore. And that's not a flaw. That's depth. Psychologists call this existential awareness, the moment when your mind starts confronting the raw truth that life doesn't come with built-in meaning, that we create meaning, that the routines and roles and identities you've been performing might not actually align with who you're becoming. When you've been on autopilot for too long, your brain quietly starts asking, why? Not as a sign of giving up, as a sign of waking up. The people most tired of existing are often the ones with the greatest potential for depth. Because you see through the illusions now, the performance of happiness, the shallow metrics of success, the empty calories of distraction. You can't self-medicate with the things that used to work because your soul is demanding something real. And that's terrifying, but it's also sacred. Think about the movie The Matrix. Neo takes the red pill and wakes up to discover that everything he thought was real was actually a simulation. The comfortable lie versus the uncomfortable truth. That's where you are right now. You've taken the red pill. You can't go back to sleep. You can't unsee what you've seen. You can't pretend anymore that the performance is enough. Philosopher Alan Watts said, "The meaning of life is just to be alive. It is so plain and so obvious and so simple." And yet, everybody rushes around in a great panic, as if it were necessary to achieve something beyond themselves. What if the exhaustion you feel is your soul's rebellion against a life spent achieving instead of being, against performing instead of feeling, against the constant rush toward more, better, bigger, when all you really want is to feel alive in the moments you already have? Here's what nobody tells you about this kind of fatigue. It's an invitation. So the question becomes, what now? How do you move from existing to living, from surviving to thriving, from performing to feeling? Let me show you something that changed everything for me. The opposite of depression isn't happiness. It's connection. Not surface level small talk, not performative relationships, real connection. The kind where you can show up as you are tired, uncertain, messy, and be met with acceptance instead of advice. Neuroscientist Dr. Andrew Huberman's research shows that your brain releases oxytocin during authentic human connection. This single hormone calms your amygdala, the fear center of your brain, and literally rewires your nervous system from threat mode back to safety mode. This isn't poetry. This is biology. But connection doesn't just mean other people. It means reconnecting with the parts of yourself you've abandoned. When was the last time you did something just because it made you feel alive? Not because it was productive. Not because it looked good on Instagram. Not because someone else needed you to do it. Just because it stirred something inside you that had been sleeping. Maybe it's walking outside without your phone and actually noticing the architecture of the sky, the way clouds move, the exact shade of blue between buildings. Maybe it's listening to a song that makes you cry and letting yourself cry without apologizing for it, without wiping your tears away before they finish falling. Maybe it's writing a letter to your younger self. Maybe it's calling that friend you've been avoiding because you're tired of pretending you're fine and finally admitting, "I'm not okay, and I don't know how to fix it." Research published in Psychological Science found that people who regularly experience awe, moments of wonder that transcend their usual perspective, report significantly higher life satisfaction and lower rates of burnout. Awe doesn't require grand experiences. It's watching the stars and remembering you're made of the same matter. It's reading poetry that captures something you felt but couldn't name. It's the moment you realize you're not crazy for feeling this way. You're just awake in a world full of people still sleeping. But here's what matters most. You have to start small. Not because small is all you can do, but because your nervous system needs to rebuild trust. Trust that rest is safe, that feeling is safe, that slowing down won't cause everything to collapse. You don't heal exhaustion by pushing harder. You heal it by learning to listen. Listen to what drains you. Listen to what nourishes you. Listen to the quiet voice underneath the performance that's been trying to tell you something for years. Every day, make one small choice that tells your mind, I still matter. My inner world still counts. Maybe it's saying no to something that depletes you, a social obligation you don't have energy for, a favor someone asks that you can't carry right now. Maybe it's saying yes to something that nourishes you 10 minutes of silence in the morning before you pick up your phone, a walk with no destination, lying on the floor and letting yourself feel whatever comes up. Maybe it's asking for help without feeling guilty. Maybe it's texting someone, I need to talk, and I need you to just listen without trying to fix it. Maybe it's admitting out loud, I'm not okay, and I don't have to be. One choice, one moment of honesty. That's how you rebuild meaning. Not in massive transformations, but in micro moments of alignment, in tiny acts of self-honoring, in the courage to choose truth over performance, even when truth is uncomfortable. Think about the movie Dead Poets Society. Robin Williams tells his students, Carpe diem, seize the day, boys, make your lives extraordinary. But here's what he doesn't say, what the movie brilliantly shows instead. You can't make your life extraordinary by following someone else's script. You make it extraordinary by having the courage to write your own. Even when it's messy, even when it doesn't make sense to anyone else, even when it means disappointing people who wanted you to stay the same. If you've made it this far, comment the word awake, because only people who are truly ready to change will watch to this point. Everyone else already scrolled away, but not you. Let me paint you a picture of what's possible. One day, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next week, but one day you're going to wake up and notice something different. The morning light will filter through your window the same way it always has. The air will smell the same. The world outside will be unchanged. But something inside you will have shifted. You'll take a breath, and for the first time in longer than you can remember, it won't feel like work. It won't feel like you're trying to convince yourself to stay. It will just feel like breathing. And you'll realize this is what it feels like to be alive again. Not dramatically, not all at once, but quietly, gently, like a season changing so gradually you don't notice until suddenly the leaves are different colors and you can't remember exactly when it happened. The music will start to land again. Not every song, but some, the ones that speak to the part of you that's been sleeping. And when they do, you'll feel it. Not just hear it, feel it. Like the lyrics are reaching into your chest and touching something you thought had died. You'll laugh, and it won't sound rehearsed. It will surprise you. This sound coming from your chest that you'd almost forgotten you could make, a real laugh. Not the polite one, not the performance. The one that escapes before you can stop it. You'll connect with someone, really connect, and you won't feel exhausted afterward. You'll feel held, seen, human. You'll have a conversation where you don't have to monitor every word before it leaves your mouth, where you can just be messy, uncertain, honest, and the other person doesn't flinch. Doesn't try to fix you, just sits with you in it. This is the quiet miracle nobody tells you about. It doesn't announce itself with trumpets. It doesn't come with a certificate of completion. It arrives in the small moments you'd stop noticing because you'd been too tired to pay attention. The moment you realize you went an entire hour without wondering what's the point. The morning you wake up with something that almost feels like anticipation, not dread, not obligation, but a tiny spark of curiosity about what today might hold. The realization that somewhere along the way, you stopped performing and started feeling. You stopped existing and started living. And here's what you need to understand about this transformation. You didn't become someone new. You became yourself again. The version of you that existed before the exhaustion, before the performance, before you learned that rest was failure and boundaries were selfishness. You came home, not to a place, to yourself, to the part of you that never left, but had been buried under years of I'm fine and I can handle it and I don't need help. that part of you, it's been waiting patiently, quietly, through every numb day and every meaningless routine and every moment you wondered if you'd ever feel anything again. It's been waiting for you to remember. Being tired of existing isn't the end of your story. It's not even the middle. It's the uncomfortable, necessary beginning of living differently, of living honestly, of living in a way that honors the depth and sensitivity and profound humanity that makes you who you are. You've been strong for so long. You've held it together for everyone else. You've survived when survival felt impossible. But survival isn't the same as living. And you're allowed to want more than survival. You're allowed to want a life that feels alive. You're allowed to stop performing and start feeling. You're allowed to come home to yourself. Your fatigue is not a flaw. It's a compass. It's been pointing you toward truth this entire time, toward alignment, toward a version of life that actually fits who you're becoming. The fact that you can't keep performing, that's not weakness, that's wisdom. The fact that you're questioning everything, that's not breaking, that's breaking free. And the quiet revolution happening inside you right now, the one where you're choosing to feel instead of perform, to be instead of achieve, to live instead of just exist, that revolution is going to change everything. You just have to give it time. You just have to choose yourself every single day in the smallest ways until those small ways become your entire life. If this video found you at the right time, if something in these words felt like they were written specifically for you, I want you to do something. Drop one word in the comments. Just one word describing how you feel right now. Searching. No explanation needed. Because when you name what you're feeling, you begin to separate from it. And when we all name it together, when you scroll through the comments and see your word repeated by dozens, hundreds, thousands of other people, you'll realize you're not alone in this. When you see other people using your word, you'll understand. This exhaustion isn't unique to you. It's a collective experience, and we're all waking up together. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, someone who's been pretending they're fine when they're not, someone who says they're just tired, but you know it's deeper than that, share this with them. Because sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is show someone else that what they're experiencing has a name and that there's a way through. Only people who've given up on depth will scroll past this message without engaging. Don't be one of them. Your comment, your share, your willingness to admit this is me, that's how movements start. That's how collective healing begins. Subscribe if you believe that everyone deserves to feel alive, not just functional. Because next week, we're diving into how to rebuild meaning when everything feels pointless. How to find purpose, not in achievement, but in alignment. How to construct a life that doesn't require you to numb yourself just to get through the day. This is the beginning, not the end. Until then, be gentle with yourself. You're not broken. You're not behind. You're exactly where you need to be. You're waking up. And that's the bravest thing you could possibly do.